people who are different go through trauma. And so when you're young, you're hurting, you're misunderstood, you're very vulnerable. And so the powers that be, whether it's the healthcare industry, whether it's, I don't know, the government, evil, I don't know the entity that is evil, I don't know what it is, but there's a reason to try and influence these young, intelligent, hurting people to distract them. Because when we're focused on, because for 5 years of my life, I was focused on being transgender. That was my entire life. So I was distracted. I couldn't participate in society. I couldn't heal from my trauma.
Hey, everybody. I caught an awesome one today. I'm like so excited. Seriously, I feel so excited when people like this are willing to sit with me and have this really kind of deep and actually very emotional. For me, it's emotional, and probably for this person it is too. Conversation that is really one of the reasons why I really feel so happy to be able to bring this stuff to all you out there. So with that, thanks for liking, subscribing, getting this to somebody who actually might really need to see it, because these conversations do help people. And so with that, I have this beautiful guest today named Maddie. And Maddie, why don't you just introduce yourself to everybody and then we'll move forward.
For sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Buck, for having me. This is like kind of a surreal experience right now because I've known of you for many years. And when I was trans, I saw you as an icon. And so it's pretty surreal right now to be on the other side of the trans experience and to be having this conversation with you. So thank you. And thank you for this platform that you have started. So yeah, my name is Maddie. Hi. I'm a woman who lived as a trans man for about 6 years of my life. Today, I'm now 27 years old. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm an artist. I'm a dancer. I'm a life coach. I do a lot of things, and I also have a podcast myself called The Bridge, and that's where I share my story. I'm really fascinated in the conversation around politics and spirituality, and kind of bridging those conversations. And yeah, I'm a detransitioner, so that's kind of why I'm here today.
Wow. Well, first off, your voice sounds amazing. I'm so jealous. You have a really beautiful voice. I'm sure did the testosterone make it deeper?
Yeah, actually, I'm thank you. Some people think I still sound like a man, so I don't even really know how to assess it, you know? All right. Well, thank you.
You don't sound like a man, just so you know. And also, before we came on, everybody, I was literally like, when you came on to before we started the recording, I was like, wow. I was like, you are so attractive. And really, I'm just shocked that 6 years into transition on some level. So how long have you been detransitioning?
Yeah, so I just hit the 3-year mark off of hormones.
Wow.
But it's been less than 2 years since I had my big like awakening moment where I was like, oh yeah, I'm a woman. I forgot. But that was really what it was like, honestly.
Sure. Sure. So
Yeah.
I want to I just wanted to get you're pretty and your voice sounds awesome. I mean, I think it sounds great. I just don't see, it sounds feminine. It just sounds like a kind of, it has that kind of like sexy, deep kind of smoker, kind of a podcaster. You sound like you could actually do commercials and things like that. So I want you to know that I don't think you need to worry about your voice or even your looks. So let's get into, what you're young. I'm 63. So it's like always so shocking to have these conversations with you young people. And so like at 20, so what happened? Where were you? What happened? Yeah. Cause it's just, the whole thing blows my mind. What was the catalyst for you to transition?
For sure. Yeah. So I mostly grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then when I was 18, I moved out of my parents' house to go to college in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And by that point, I had already had a lot of issues with my parents. We just didn't really get along. You know, I was a very rebellious sort of young person, very creative, very open-minded. My parents were conservative Catholic people, and I wanted nothing to do with that, you know? So I went off to college, went to DC, and within a year decided I wanted to transition to male. And so I started taking hormones when I was 19. It was the summer after my freshman year of college. Really, it got into my head. I knew a lot of queer and trans people. When I was in high school, I was like the president of the Gay Straight Alliance. I was always like super outspoken about those kinds of things. And I knew people who were transitioning. But it wasn't until I got to college and I had the freedom to do what I wanted with my life that I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And
Right.
it was really because of trans YouTubers that convinced me that I was trans and that was what I wanted to do with my life, because I could have just, before that, I was always like gender, I like to express myself through fashion. I would wear like
Mhm.
a skirt with like a bow tie. I was
Mhm.
always very creative like that. But I never went so far as to think that I wanted to become a man until the option was presented to me that I could do that. So, July 2017, I started hormones. I stopped speaking to my parents, completely cut them out of my life, and my siblings as well because of that. And
Mhm.
then I did everything super super quickly because I just wanted to like erase my past basically. So by
Mhm.
that fall, I legally changed my name to Maxwell. I went by Max for short most of the
Okay.
time, and then by the next summer, I got a double mastectomy. So I was 20 years old when I got a double mastectomy.
That everything just literally like bam, 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 right?
Yep.
Like, was there? God, okay, wow, wow, just wow. So I want to know a couple questions here. So when you moved to DC, and did you go to college? Is it you went to university or college there? And so then
Mm-hmm.
you were in the whole like sort of LGBT queer space. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel like some of that was sort of, I'm going to use the word indoctrination, but do you feel like that was happening to you? Like people around you were trans and queer, and that was pulling you into that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there was a big LGBTQ group on campus. All of my friend group was in that group. And there was an LGBT, like, I think it was called like the diversity clinic or something.
Mm,
And so there was a space on campus you could go to get resources. And then in DC, there's an LGBT health clinic called Whitman Walker.
yeah.
And I knew where to go. I knew exactly where to go and what to do. I also had a close friend at the time who started transitioning right before me. So I basically followed in his footsteps. Like I saw what he was doing and I
Wow.
was like, I want to do that too. All right, I'm going to go do
Why?
it.
Why do you think you wanted to? Did you identify as a gay woman before that, or were you just queer, or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, at this point I've identified as every single letter of the LGBTQ alphabet.
Right
um,
on.
yeah, at that point I had identified as I thought I was a lesbian at different points, and then I
Right.
thought I was like non-binary, and then I thought I was trans. I don't even know. I was just figuring it out, as
Yeah.
you are when you're that age. But
What do you think
yeah.
was going on with your parents? What do you
Mhm.
think you weren't getting along with your parents? Was it your sexuality or the LGBT stuff?
Yeah, I mean that was part of it. I mean,
Oh.
I didn't feel accepted by my parents. I felt they didn't understand me.
Mm,
And there were multiple factors. One was that they were Catholic, and when I was like 12 or 13, I told them I didn't want to be Catholic, and that was kind of the first like big rupture in our relationship. You know what I mean?
totally.
Um, and then when I was in high school, I came out as like told them I liked girls, and that was
Right.
a big issue as well. So there were multiple factors, plus not to mention that my mother was just completely emotionally unavailable my entire
Mm,
life. So we didn't have a good relationship anyways. So
okay.
by the time I was on my own in DC, I was like, I had some serious mental health issues. Like I was really depressed. I was really just dealing with a lot of stuff, and I didn't know how to possibly feel better. I didn't know it was even possible. And so
Right.
transitioning seemed to be the answer.
Wow. I mean, I've interviewed, gosh, a lot of detransitioners at this point, and there's so many similarities that I hear from you all. I mean, the not getting on with your family, dealing with identity politics, how am I, which is all normal stuff that all kids, even I'm 63, I'll keep saying it, back when I was your age, or even younger than you, I was dealing with my identity and my sexuality. And so it's always been that way, right? But now you guys have this sort of click that you can connect to. I
Mhm.
will be honest with you, as you know, or probably don't know, I don't connect to the trans community. I'm not part of that. I'm a transsexual who transitioned at an older age and went through a lot of life experience and 33 years of transition. And I have gender dysphoria, which is a mental condition, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I just want to put that there for you because
Mhm.
this stuff that's happening to you guys really feels like a part of very cult like to me, also very indoctrinating, not loving in any way, shape, or form, not diverse, not, hey, maybe you're just, how can we just sort of, that's what the LGBT clubs used to be. The gay and straight, gay alliance, straight alliance used to just be like, oh, just come and hang out. We don't have any agenda. I feel, and do you, my question to you is, do you also feel like there's an agenda there within that group?
I do, yes, definitely.
Mm.
And I guess the thing that I'm trying to figure out is why, why. And I think that there's, because I think that the work has already been done to expose what's going on. Like you said, you've interviewed all these detransitioners. We have the same story. We were influenced to do this thing to change ourselves. And one thing that I say, and I've said it on my podcast, is like, I have serious questions and concerns about a movement that says in order to be yourself, you have to change yourself. It
Great.
doesn't make any sense, If you can just be
Right.
yourself, then just be yourself, I could have been a masculine young woman. I could have been a
So
spunk.
many things.
Yeah, So why did I have to go and do that? Who told me I was a man, and why? Why?
Why? That is really my question as somebody who this helped me a lot, friend. I got sober. I've been sober for 100 million years. I got my shit together. I'm very successful in my business, in my family, in my spirituality, all of it, man. I feel so above myself on some reason. It's why it hurts my heart for you,
Hmm.
because this shouldn't be just for anybody. It's a very small group of people that have what I have, gender,
Hmm.
actual real gender dysphoria. But I also don't believe somebody at even 19, I don't even believe a 19-year-old could make this choice.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that because at 19, I was still mentally a child. I would have been angry at anyone who tried to tell me that at the time, but I was not well. I was not in a good
Yeah.
place, and I didn't trust the people around me to give me solid advice, and that was confirmed because all the people I went to for advice, doctors, therapists, they
Yeah.
told me to go and do what I did. So, you know, nobody told me to
Affirmation.
stop. So,
Affirmation therapy. This is why I'm so over you. If somebody's not feeling well, you don't just say, okay, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you have anorexia. It's good. That's
right,
just,
right, go get a
some,
major surgery. You
oh my
know,
God. So let's talk about so did you start seeing a therapist or did you go to Planned Parenthood? What was the clinic again that you went to?
Yeah, so I went to Whitman Walker Health in
Man
DC.
Walker.
It's like the
Okay.
LGBTQ health clinic there, and they do a lot of gender affirming care. I went there, saw a doctor. I think I had to do one therapy session, did the one therapy session, and got the hormones very quickly. It was super easy.
Wow. Just wow. So there you are, 19, getting therapy, which is not therapy. Next thing you know, you're on hormones. So how did that progress? Tell me about so you started taking testosterone. Did you inject testosterone?
I did, yes, yeah. And it's
Wow.
it's crazy because I thought I was scared of needles, but this was the one thing I was like, I will overcome this fear just so I can inject my thigh with testosterone for every week for 5 years. It's
Wow.
crazy to think about now, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I started the hormones. They started to affect me really quickly, and just because of the way that I look, and I'm kind of tall for a woman too. Like testosterone did what it was supposed to do, and I transformed pretty quickly into looking like a man. And because I did everything super quickly too, with like the legal changes and the double mastectomy, like within a year, I had transformed myself. I had become a different person. And I don't know if you put pictures on your show, but I can send you a picture of myself, and you
I
can
would
see
love that. I would
um,
love it.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked quite different than how I do now.
Oh gosh. Wow. So yeah, it's so fast. It's freaking me out. Like the fact that they would give so at this, you're 1920, whatever, 1920, same thing to me. And they're just giving you a double mastectomy without any, I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I'm laughing so I don't cry. I'm a big crybaby and I just can't even, a 19, 20-year-old woman is having her breasts removed because she thinks she's a man after less than not even any therapy, just bam, hormones. Anybody out there who thinks this is okay, you're insane. You're actually insane. There's nothing okay. This is not gender affirming care. Uh,
Hmm.
What is this? Is this a ideology? Do you think?
I do think it's an ideology. I think there's many factors at play. Like there's the insurance companies and the healthcare industry is making money off of this. So there's a reason, there's an agenda to push these surgeries and stuff because they're profiting off of it. All of my trans healthcare was completely covered by insurance. I didn't pay anything for the surgery or for the hormones for 5 years. I think I had to buy my own needles and stuff, but yeah, it was all
Wow.
covered. So somebody was making money off of what happened to me. So there's that side of things. Another aspect that I don't know if people really talk about this that much, but I personally think that trans identified people are some of the most intelligent people. I'm sure you would agree because you've talked to a lot of us.
Sure.
And we're smart, we're creative. There's also the link between like autism, and I think autism is connected to high intelligence, but
It
also
is.
being kind of different, being a different thinker,
Yep.
out of the box thinker, which can present its own kind of challenges in the world. Um, and I definitely could have been diagnosed with autism at different points in my life. I don't like labels at this point, so I'm not going to go for that, but I'm certainly a different kind of person, and I do think I'm very smart, and I do think that people who are different go through trauma. And so when you're young, you're hurting, you're misunderstood, you're very vulnerable. And so the powers that be, whether it's the healthcare industry, whether it's, I don't know, the government, evil, I don't know, the entity that is evil, I don't know what it is, but there's a reason to try and influence these young, intelligent, hurting people to distract them. Because when we're focused on, because for 5 years of my life, I was focused on being transgender. That was my entire life. So I was distracted. I couldn't participate in society. I couldn't heal from my trauma. I was stuck in one place. So I think on a larger collective level, there's some evil forces at play that are trying to manipulate these young, intelligent people from being participants in society to help create change, because we do need to change our world. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of my
Also,
theories.
no, no, I'm totally on board with a lot of this stuff. And one of the other things I said is they are, sterilizing you young women and
Mm,
because I don't know what's going to happen with your testosterone. I have a couple of detransition friends who have babies and seems like everything is cool. But
mhm,
that being said, some of them are getting hysterectomies. So and also your breast not being able to breastfeed. So on some level, it is desexualizing you, also on some level being able not to procreate. There's no way this is just some fluke, right? It feels very planned out to me.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all. Do you notice this as well? The target seems to be young girls. I don't see so many young men in this situation that you're in. Do you?
Um, I definitely don't know as many, um, but they're out there, right? I mean, do
They're
you
out
think?
there. I've interviewed 3 men who transitioned to women. 2 of them took puberty blockers and destroyed their lives, and they had vaginal surgery, which totally destroyed their lives. I mean, those are the saddest, insane stories.
Oh my
Not
gosh,
that
yeah.
yours, and I know it's just horrifying. And but the majority of the detransitioners that I deal with, that I become friends with, that I interview, are all female to male.
Mm,
And pretty much most of them have done top surgery and hormonal stuff that has affected
mhm,
them.
mm,
Yeah. Do you
yeah.
feel any effects from the testosterone now?
Yeah, yeah. At first, I couldn't tell if I was still having effects, but I do. I have some weird pains in my body. I definitely still have effects from the top surgery. The scar
Yeah.
tissue. I mean, it never properly healed, and I think that's because it's not a surgery that people should get unless it's actually medically necessary, like you have cancer and you have to remove.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't be removing parts of our body. Just
Yeah,
period.
no, no, I hear you. And, for somebody who just did my top surgery over 30 something years ago, and top surgery, I did it 30. Oh my God, man. Every time I talk to you young people, I did it like 30 years ago and I have no scars. You would never even be able to tell that I had top surgery. They did something called keyhole, and which I was one of
Mm.
the first people to have that done as a trans person. But
Oh,
the whole
wow.
point was so that we don't have scars. And again, I was 30 years old when I did my surgery after years of therapy. And I went through a huge, massive, sort of system to get that space. So
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying. It should never be that easy. No way should it be easy for a 19-year-old to cut their breasts off. What
Mhm.
are you talking about?
Right, right. Yeah, it definitely shouldn't be normalized. Yeah, because I think, like everybody has free will to do what they want with their bodies. People get tattoos,
Totally.
people get plastic surgery, and I think that,
Yeah.
the point that you're making is that it was a choice that you made for yourself, and you have the right to do that. And I'm glad that it has served you well. But the larger point is that it shouldn't be, widely
No,
accessible or encouraged for young
I
people to
agree.
do it.
No,
Yeah.
it shouldn't even be for my people my age. You still have
Mm-hmm.
to go through a lot of system. It's why I call myself a gatekeeper, because this is going to ruin it for the people who actually need it. There are people who actually need this medicine. I prove it. People can't deny that it worked for somebody like me. And that is why it scares me. And it's why I feel so important to bring your voice on these platforms, because it didn't work for you and you never should have been put in this place. And you're not trans. You're just a person who was dealing with clearly some trauma stuff going on with you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That you didn't get to deal with. So there you are living 6 years as a trans man, right? And then what happened?
Yeah, I guess this is where it gets fun. I was living in DC. I had done like everything that I thought I was supposed to do to be successful in life, like especially because I had cut off my parents, so I was independent. So I was like,
Mm,
okay, I'm going to take care of business. I got a full time job. I
mm,
finished college. I initially had to drop out, and then I finished my degree online later. I got my own apartment. I got my own car. Like I had a partner. Like my life, I felt successful, like I successful young man. I grew a full beard and a mustache, and people complimented me a lot on that. And I was pretty active in the queer scene in DC as well, in like the nightlife scene.
mm,
Um, and then, but I just realized one day, I'm really not happy. Like I'm still really depressed. Every
mm,
day I wake up and I just feel like there's this dark cloud above my head. I don't know why. So I started to make some changes in my life. The first thing I did was I stopped drinking alcohol because I definitely had an issue with that, with substance use. Um, I quit my full time job, didn't know what I was doing, and then I started to research trauma and holistic healing methods, like alternative healing methods, because I'd gone to doctors, I'd gone to psychiatrists, and everyone was like, I mean, a lot of people would tell me that there was nothing wrong with me, first of all,
mm,
and I
mm,
because I was super high functioning, even though I was really depressed and really
mm,
unwell, like I was able to do so much despite what was
mm,
going on in my mind and how I really felt about myself, which I would describe now as like I deeply hated myself, like really, really
mm,
deeply. But so I started to research all these things, and I got the idea in my head that it was possible one day to actually feel okay. I was like,
mm,
you know what? I'm going to strive for true wellness. And so I embarked upon what I call the healing journey. And I began to follow my intuition. I had a sort of like spiritual mindset, but I wouldn't have really used the word God at the time or anything like that. But I began to follow like guidance outside of myself, and it led me to move across the country from DC to Las Vegas. And it led me to stop taking the hormones, even though I did not know why.
wow.
So I landed in Las Vegas. Well, I drove across the country. Arrived in Las Vegas September of 2022, so 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Uh, my birthday was a few weeks later, and my period came back the day after my 25th birthday, I think it was.
Wow.
And it just felt like this incredible birthday gift from the universe. And again, I still thought I was a man. Like I truly thought I was a man.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
yet this thing happened, and I was like, why does this feel so good? Why does this feel so natural? And why am I so
mhm,
grateful for it? And then my body started to change, and it was very like it really like skewed with my sense of self because I was changing in the mirror and I didn't know why things were changing. And I was still clinging on to the trans identity for a while, until a year later. So I was already like a year and a couple months off of the hormones when I was invited to sit in an ayahuasca ceremony. Do you know what?
and
For those who don't know, it's kind of like a psychedelic mushroom journey, but I would say way more intense. It's all natural, comes from the earth, and
yep,
it takes you on a journey within.
right.
Um, and so I went on this ayahuasca journey, and the reason that I went to ask. My question was, why am I in so much pain?
Mm,
And the answer
great.
came to me clear as day. It was, you are a woman. And I
See
was
how
like,
magical. Magical.
And the whole night I was very loud. I was like yelling and screaming the whole night, and crying and grieving, and just
Sure.
like, because I
Sure.
was like, oh, oh, I forgot. Like I truly forgot that I was a woman. I had erased it from my mind in an attempt to become this other person, to become Max, this man that I had created.
Hmm.
And so that night, like I just, you know, again, I was already a year off of the hormones, so that made it a little bit easier, but it was a huge ego death. It was like, because the biggest thing, the hardest thing to accept, well, one was the fact that I felt so ugly at that point. I was like, I've ruined
Yeah.
myself. Like I was like, how can I
Mm.
ever be a woman again? Because I do not
Wow.
look or feel like a woman. So that was the one
Yeah.
hard part. The other part was that I had told everybody who I was. And so in order to accept that I
Oh,
was a woman, and this is why it was an ego death, I had to admit that I was wrong. And
that's ego right there.
right, right. And
Okay.
I've always been a very like I've always been a very headstrong person. I've always been very, you know, confident, and you know, sometimes that's been to my own demise, you know what I mean?
Of
So
course.
this journey of detransition has been incredibly humbling. I will say that.
Well, that's the minute I met you, I could feel that energy from you. I could feel the
Mhm.
very grounded, humbled, not there's no I don't feel any ego from you. I feel
No.
like this is part of on some level, I think it's part of your journey of life, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
sadly to say, you had to go through this for some reason to come out the other side as a sort of teacher and
Yeah.
a messenger. It's actually going to make me emotional because I do
Mhm.
believe in these kinds of I'm very spiritual in that sense. And ayahuasca, or I do microdose
Mhm.
mushrooms because it does help me sort of be very calm, and 30 something years off alcohol and nasty
Mhm.
drugs. But I
Mhm.
don't consider these things drugs. I consider them enlightening. They enlighten
Absolutely.
you, and I feel like you have been enlightened on some that ayahuasca journey gave you power. It gave you this power to because ego equals death. It totally
Mhm.
it is. It's like the whole trans community is ego. They're all right. They're all literally living in their narcissistic ego hardcore space that you
Mhm.
sort of learned on from this and came out of it as I think you're a teacher. That's what I
Mhm.
think, which is powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean that's why I started my own platform, my podcast. It's called The Bridge. You know, I felt very called to do it, even though like
Yes.
I've definitely already gotten quite a bit of negative feedback for sure. You know,
From
um,
who, I wonder.
my very own former best friends. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing. I just think it says everything I just told you. When you transcend, which is what you
Mhm.
did, just so you know, when you transcend, you don't think I get so much hate from the trans community. Do you know what I was
I
doing
know.
for many years to teach the world about people like me and then this community? This is why you can't take in. I'm sure you seem very smart enough to not take it personally, but sometimes it's hard not to when you thought but these people aren't your friends, by the way. They're scared of you, and that's why they're coming at you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to speak on that, like I definitely agree with you. There's a lot of ego wrapped up in the trans identity, like 100%. But I
Yes.
think that we latch on to ego when we're hurting and we're in pain.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the
Excellent.
ego serves to protect that inner,
Excellent.
I mean, inner child, you could say, the part of yourself that is hurting.
Yes.
And that's why, you know, that's why I transition, I think, is that I
Yes.
created this man self to protect my hurt inner child, my hurt inner little
Right.
girl. And so
Right.
I think what's so triggering to the trans community about detransitioners is we're putting up this reflection of like, I am you, you know, I was you, and I'm
Yes.
not following that path anymore. And so it brings up stuff inside of them that a lot of them aren't ready to face. You
No.
know, just
Yes.
I mean, just for an example, like, I mean, this is kind of vulnerable to talk about, I guess, but I think I want to. So when I started transitioning, I mentioned that I transitioned alongside a friend,
Mhm.
and he's a trans man, and he still is. He started hormones like a few months before me, and we became best friends, and we went on our journeys like together. Like
Mhm.
he would do something, I would do something, and we supported each other in our transition. And so a little bit over a year ago, when I texted him to tell him like, hey, I'm changing my name back. this is what's going on with me. And I didn't say it in a judgmental way. I just wanted to let him know what was up. And I wasn't judging him for where he's at either. And I even said like, hey, I'd love for you to come sit in the ayahuasca ceremony with me someday,
Right.
because of course I
Right.
love him. I love my friend. But he never replied to my text.
Right.
And I knew that it likely brought up some stuff inside of him that he wasn't ready to face. And so I just gave it space. I wasn't going to
Mhm.
say anything, but he finally emailed me like a month ago, and he had looked me up on social media, saw that I, started a podcast, and he wrote me a pretty nasty email and called me a grifter and all this stuff. And I'm like, that was my first time ever being called that word. uh,
What a shame.
And,
What a shame.
yeah, it hurts because it's like, how can you not see my heart? Because you knew my heart. You loved me for 7 years. We were friends for a really long time. And then to now choose an ideology over your very own best friend just feels, it feels hurtful. But at the same time, he's still scared. He's scared. And there's a
Yes.
part of himself that is really deeply hurting. And there's only so much that I can do, that we can do to express that love, because at the
Right.
same time we have to keep speaking truth. And that's something that I've been learning as I've gotten been doing my podcast. Because at first I wanted to try and just be like really gentle and really easeful. And I did
Right.
an episode called Dear Trans People, where I
Mm.
invited trans people into the conversation, and it actually
Mhm.
was received really well for the most part. So I'm glad about
Excellent.
that. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, from here on, we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna get more and more truthful and more
Yes.
honest. I cannot like baby everybody all steps of the way. You know what I mean?
No.
So yeah, and I feel
That's
like
really sad.
go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
I mean to cut you off. I just wanted not to lose track of your friend who
Mm-hmm.
is now 6 or 7 or more, well, probably like 10 years into transition, right? Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
something to that effect. I think you hit it
Almost.
on the head. And I think that because I always say this, why am I not affected by you? All you did for why do I have something in my heart for you? Why do I feel so connected to you? Why do I
Mm-hmm.
feel and men, not just me, there's a lot of us transsexuals who feel very connected to you and don't in any way, shape, or form take what you did in a personal way. We take it in a personal way, meaning that your detransition doesn't hurt our transition. In fact, your detransition on some level is necessary for our transition. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't understand this newer generation of trans people calling you a grifter or a bootlicker or I mean, the things they say to the detransition community is so hurtful on so many levels. But somebody who is so close to you can't in any way, shape, or form get out of their own fear. But that's you. I say it all the time. They're fearful of things that they shouldn't have to be fearful. That person should not be fearful of you. That person
Yeah.
should have some compassion for you and say, well, you took the wrong path. I took the right path. You took the path that possibly wasn't, well, clearly wasn't meant for you. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
just can't seem to get my head around why that part of the trans community is so mean to you or to even me for platforming you. They get very
Yeah.
mad at me for, giving you space to talk about your story when we have to come together. You were part of the
Yeah.
community. At one point you were part of that trans community. It's
Yeah.
like leaving a cult. Don't you think that's what they do to people who leave cults. They ostracize you, they come after you, they try to ruin your reputation. Has a lot of similarities to that. So
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it is sad, and I don't think they understand that. Like I'm choosing to face my fear every single day. Like the past few
yes.
years have not been easy. Like this has been the hardest chapter of my life.
Yeah.
Like to
Yeah.
face myself and be willing to, look at myself in the mirror and say, I've made some choices that were not smart. And but I can also give myself grace and say that was the best thing that I knew at the time. And like you said,
Right.
it was part of my journey. It is part of my journey.
Yes.
And that's what helps me to find acceptance and to find peace, which like I'm really grateful, just looking at myself, like I like myself today, and I'm happy to be here, but it's not been an easy road. A lot of the steps of the way I was like, just, I mean, the depression that I had for so long really lingered. And then in the
Mm,
midst of like facing this huge transformation yet again,
mm.
knowing that I would lose the support of everybody that I
Yes.
had in my life, it's like, that's very scary to do, but I knew that I had to do it
Yes.
for myself.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
So no, that's very powerful. I feel very connected to you on some level, and it's why us need to meet, because I did the same with my community. I left that community that I really put a lot of energy into. I did so much work to sort of bring awareness to transsexual people, and I had to leave. I announce it publicly all the time. I am not part of the trans community. That's not my community, because we
Mhm.
don't have community is some people who have different opinions but can actually meet and have conversation. That's a community. We don't have to be the
Mhm.
same political, we don't have to be the same how we believe in, whatever certain kind of aspects of life we believe in. What we have to do is say we want to have a better world. That to
Mm.
me is community. Me and you want to fix the world. However, you fix it
Yes.
this way, I'll fix it this way, and in the middle we can meet
Yes.
and leave the
Yes.
world. So it is fearful. It's very, very scary, fear inducing to leave the people you once thought were your tribe or your
Right.
people. But it also says a lot about you. Again, 27. I can't. You seem so incredibly mature. Like you're one of those old souls, I think.
I am. Yeah, I've gotten that my whole life. Yeah.
I'm not. I'm like a man
Right.
63. I'm like the most immature 63-year-old out there. I have a kid, like a 13-year-old.
Oh,
He's always like, "You're 13." I'm like, "I'm totally 13, dude."
I can see
But
it. You're very you have very youthful energy.
yeah, I'm totally that
But
dude.
you're so enthusiastic, and I think that's part of what makes you so like have such a powerful voice. Like you seem fearless to me in the way that you share your voice. So kudos to you.
Well, it's because I just am 63. At this point, what are you gonna do? Not be my friend, right? What are you gonna do? Like cancel me? Like I feel like I have a very powerful space, and I think I gotta keep telling you. After this, we'll be friends. I guarantee you. And after, if you ever need a little bump of of ego boost, whatever, I'm there for you, friend. Because I really believe you're gonna be a very powerful voice in this space, and not just trans. Let's just move forward from that, right? There's
Not
just
yet.
so your story is so important, but at the
Mm,
same time I think that it's just a stepping stone, for you to be doing great things in this world. People need to know how to deal with, because
mm,
I'm going to go back to your trauma, right?
mm,
Because I think
mhm,
all of us, I had trauma. This is probably one of the reasons I wasn't dealing with myself as a female and for many years, and all the
mhm.
things I tried to work on. I've been going to therapy for 30 years, friend. So I still go to therapy. But that being said, I'm a big believer of that. We have to take care of ourselves before we can sort of help
Absolutely.
everybody else. But with that, so I think we really need to touch on this trauma thing. And I think a lot of these young trans people have
Mhm,
just really deep. What do you think about this idea that a lot of them being female, because it is the majority are of transitioning people are female to male? What do you think about this idea that, um, similar to when anorexia was a big deal or all those things, they don't want to grow up to be women? Maybe they've had some sexually bad experience, right?
mhm.
Do you think that could be true?
Yeah, I think that
Mm,
a lot of young women experience abuse of that nature more
mm,
than is societally recognized. Like you can look up statistics, but I don't think those statistics would even really acknowledge what goes on. Because I think one of the key problems in our society today is the lack of respect for women and girls. It's a huge problem, and it's
yes.
that problem that also contributes to the confusion of men as well. We've
Yes.
lost a sense of what our roles are, our
Mm,
natural roles, which shouldn't be forced. Because when I was a teenage girl, I was a super feminist, and I was like angry. I was like, you think I'm just supposed to be a wife and a mother? Like, no, no way. Meanwhile, meanwhile, now I'm like, that's low key all I want. Um,
I love it.
but
Excellent.
but that doesn't make me not also an incredible, intelligent person. It
Yes.
doesn't make me also a powerful leader, a strong voice, a writer, an artist. Like I'm all of these things.
Great.
And I can also do that while fulfilling my natural role as a woman. And
Right.
I could choose not to. Because the thing is,
Right.
we have free will, we have choice, and that's the
That's
beautiful
right.
thing about being human. You can do literally whatever you want, especially in this modern age. So
Mm,
I think too, it's a little bit interesting how people create in their minds this idea that they're trapped, and they start to say, "Oh, life is telling me I can't do this or can't do that." And it's like
mm.
you might feel those societal pressures, but you can break out of them. You can
Yes.
literally choose to do whatever you want to do. And I think that the trans identity and ideology is kind of built around that victim mindset of like, oh, I'm being
Yes.
told what to do. And it's like, I get it. It's frustrating, especially if you were told a lot what to do as a child. You felt controlled, you felt oppressed, you felt misunderstood. But when you grow up, you have to learn to get out of that mindset. You have to move on. And I think too that, going back to the trauma thing, we don't have a lot of tools for how to let go of the past. We don't have
Yes.
a lot of tools for actually how to heal from trauma,
Yes.
how to feel your emotions. And
Yes.
even conventional therapy doesn't really address those things, like talk therapy. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of like psychiatry,
Yeah,
or
me
even,
neither. Yeah.
I'm all for like the natural methods. Um, so
Have you
yeah.
heard of this? Have you heard of this? I went to traditional therapy for a lot of early young adult because I was dealing with my sex. He always says I was dealing with my sexuality. I wasn't dealing with my gender. Early in
Hmm.
my life, I was a hardcore les dyke, bull dyke. Like I was, but I was 17, like trying to like navigate liking girls. Right? I never thought I
Right.
was a boy. I never thought I was a boy or a man. No one ever told me that when I was young. I was just a very butch woman and a lesbian, right? You weren't allowed to be a lesbian. Like this is literally the 70s.
Hmm.
And I'm the sports dyke. Just every stereotype you can imagine was me. And I was dealing with so much of all of that nonsense trying to navigate, the world through that. That's where alcoholism started happening and drugs and just to get away from all that. But now I see this flip in these young girls thinking if they become men, right, life is going to be easier for them.
Right.
I really do think like we're teaching these young women that hold up here. Maybe it's just your sexuality, but
Hmm.
you think because you like girls that you have to be a dude. And I mean, there's just many layers of this, I think. And so going back to psychiatry, I did go to a psychiatrist and he gave me all these drugs. My parents were so pissed. So that's why I always went to sort of therapy. And then from that, I started doing this therapy called EDMR, I think it's called, or something like
Hmm.
that. Honestly, it was great. Mine was the tapping one, and I talk about it
Yeah.
all the time. It so took me to another level of my life. I can't even
Hmm.
believe it. It's like it got rid of all this old trauma crap I wasn't dealing with. But
Wow.
I think that that's one of the things that the trans community doesn't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about what you and I are sitting here having a really basically normal conversation about why can't we start talking about the trauma in these young people? Why is it just if they say they're trans, they're trans? Why can't we address when I went to therapy as trans? It took me years for my therapist to sort of untangle all before, okay, you're ready to sort of, but the
Hmm.
fact that you went to one session, what did they say to you in that session?
Well, I went in and I told them what I wanted, and
Uh,
they just gave me what I wanted. So, like I said, I was a very headstrong young woman, so I was like, I'm gonna get what I want.
what?
And there wasn't really any questioning because I told them who I thought I was, and they said, okay.
That's affirmation right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Affirming what a
just
kid says, a kid gets. Who does
right,
that? That's like bad
right.
parenting, right? Right? It's like literally, I want that candy. Nope, sorry, dude, no candy. It
Yeah,
really is. It feels pretty much like we're just letting these young people lead the charge in whatever they want to have. It's not like we're just saying, okay, you can wear a baseball cap and pants. We're literally
right.
giving surgery and hormones, which is, I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
how are you dealing with the aftermath of all this physically, like your body? How does
Mm,
you did do the top surgery,
mhm.
mastectomy? I mean, do you feel very mad about it, or are you dealing with that?
Yeah. Well, wait, I wanted to go back to something you said for a second.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Let me see if I can find it again.
trauma, the way we talk about it. Um, yeah, just take a minute. I'll drink.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was about just like the lack of access to like actual trauma healing. I remember there was one point when I was living as trans where I was trying to find a trauma informed therapist, and I finally found one, and then it was like this huge thing where he wouldn't take my insurance, and I couldn't go see this trauma informed therapist. So I had started to realize like I wanted to heal from my trauma, and yet the actual resources for healing from my trauma were not available. And I did see a therapist, a few different therapists during the time that I was living as trans. And all of them were like conventional, like talk therapists, like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And my perspective on cognitive behavioral therapy now is it actually keeps you caught in the same thought cycles. Like I would go to these therapists, and basically I would just complain about my life or talk about the things that I was anxious or stressed about, and they would validate my anxieties and my stress. And so I didn't. For 5 years, I was in therapy, and I don't think I healed a single thing.
Nope, you didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, everybody. And I have a huge amount of therapist friends because they're
Mm.
pissed. Like,
Mm.
we're fighting to get rid of affirmation therapy. It's unbelievable. That is complete violence on some level. That is actually the most insane thing I've ever. I have a really great group of therapist friends who are not okay. Just so you know, a lot of therapists are not okay with what is happening in that particular mental
Mm.
health field and feel
Mm.
very pissed off about it. And I think this one of the things we got to hit really hard, because it's why a lot of these kids are transitioning, because they just, like you said, you went into one thing, they affirmed you, and next thing you know, in what other mental space would they just say, like, I always bring up anorexia, right? If you go in
Mm.
for, I actually had bulimia when I was a young girl at
Mm.
16. I got
Mm.
hospitalized for it, and I was dealing with all of this trauma stuff. I was dealing with a lot of it, and
Mhm.
now I didn't get certain kinds of therapy. I always wonder, and these are things I question myself. Would I have gotten a certain kind of trauma? Would I have transitioned?
Mhm.
I think that sometimes, not that I feel unhappy. I feel very
Mhm.
happy being this way, but I wonder to myself,
Yeah.
what if I had a different kind of therapy? Would I have
Right.
needed to become this man? Would I have needed to do the things that made me feel like a better person?
Right. Right.
It's why I think these conversations are so important, coming from an older person like myself and a younger person like you,
Mm.
that it didn't work out, but it did work out for me, right? As you see, I do quotes, because what does that
Mhm.
really mean? Could it have
Mhm.
worked out for me to learn to love my body? Could it have worked out for me to say, I only had chest
Yeah.
surgery. I didn't do the
Yeah.
surgery. Thank God I
Yeah.
didn't. But
Right.
not that I think you understand what I'm saying. I
Yeah, yeah,
hope,
yeah.
because not that I'm
Yes.
thinking of going back. I just wonder to myself, what if I had therapy that sort of just said, this isn't available. You're going to have to learn how to walk the world as a masculine woman, and it's fucking okay.
Right. Yeah. I
Right?
mean, I think it's great that you're willing to think about that, and
Yeah.
and just be open-minded to look at your life, open and honestly. Because yeah, and I think the journey of loving yourself is lifelong, right? There's so many things you
Yes.
can do because
That's
when
right.
I posted this Dear Trans People video, there were some comments that were like, from trans people saying I decided to transition, and that is how I decided to love myself. And
Right.
I probably might have said that at some point in my life too, but the journey of self-love, it continues, it goes onward and onward, and we
Yes.
make choices, we make mistakes, and it's all part of the journey. Loving yourself isn't a destination, it's an everyday practice. So
And
yeah.
also making mistakes, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to make mistakes, but making mistakes of cutting your boobs off and taking hormones, that's not a mistake on some level. That is something that people around you in the medical field should have been much more gentle. You, ha- you know, I mean, my God, I don't know how you feel. Well, you probably feel the same way I do. I can't imagine that you don't. About kids, little 10-year-old kids taking puberty blockers, and they're trans. I'm like, that never was around,
Yeah.
Maddie, when I
Yeah.
was transitioning. We never talked about kids. We always said it's an adult space.
Right.
And how dare they see what they're doing? They're regressing now to all the way to starting when kids are. I've seen parents saying that their 4-year-olds were trans.
Yeah, yeah, which I think that goes back to like speaking about the fact that this is a larger movement going on. There's something larger at play here because children should not be wrapped up in this whatsoever.
Nope.
It's really convoluted. It's really disgusting. I mean, I'm really passionate about children. I mean,
Mm.
taken care of children like my whole life. I
Mm.
basically raised my younger sister, who's 10
Oh,
years younger than me.
great.
And then like last year, interestingly, right after like going through all this stuff with my detransition, I got a job as a preschool teacher, and I got this beautiful experience to like be around these
Oh,
amazing children and just witness them. And yeah, children are
oh,
not thinking about this kind of stuff. Children are just, they're just literally pure love, pure imagination, pure joy, pure
that's
light. Like,
right.
to project any sort of adult ideologies onto them is completely like, it's false, it's convoluted, it's gross.
It's
So
child
yeah.
abuse. I'm going to say
Yeah.
it. It is actual. I'm a parent, okay? My kid doesn't call me dad, by the way, because his
Mm.
actual biological dad is in the picture,
Uh,
and that's his dad, and I'm Buck, right? So it's
uh,
all good. And because my partner, it's her kid, so I became the
okay.
stepdad. But I'm not a stepdad. I'm Buck. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that. But anyway, I have a great relationship. I'm that second
Mhm.
parent. We're his parents. Anyway, blah blah blah. Like to I'm around kids. Like he has play dates with little, since I've been around since he was 6.
Mhm.
No kid, they're not thinking about trans. And then he comes home from school one day. He's like, Buck, what's non-binary? I'm like, I'm gonna.
Mm.
Oh, I sat his ass down and I said, blah blah blah. And then when he got old enough, I explained to him that I'm a transsexual just
Mm.
in the last year, and he was like, "Oh,
Mm.
so you're the real trans?" He
Huh.
actually, and he
Wow.
was like, and I said, "We never talk about it. We never talk about
Mm.
it. I'm just that person." Blah blah blah. But they're
Mm.
already teaching these kids at school about non-binary, and you could be whatever you want. But he thinks it's a joke, and he's smarter than
Mm.
that. And the
Mm.
thing is that you and I both have been around these children, and you can easily tell children how to be. You can manipulate children into being. You can mold a child into something you want that child to be molded into. So when a
Mm.
parent is telling you that their 4-year-old is trans, you and I both know that's the parent. It's not the child who's doing that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
shocking. It's
It
shocking that they're
is.
letting them get away with this. And like, I just think it's child abuse, and I won't stand for
Yeah,
it.
right. And then now the trans movement, like even the adults advocating for their own rights to transition, they're including the child transition part into it. So it's like they can't even stand alone. Like, because again, you
Yeah,
have, people have free will, that you have free choice. You could at least just say, I want to do this, but to
that's
also
right.
say everybody, including children, should be allowed and encouraged to do that. Like, it's, I don't know, it's getting quite
It's getting like surreal and like a horror movie. I've seen people with 4 trans kids. Like your whole
wow.
family is trans. The wife turned into the man, the husband turned into the wife, then all the kids. I'm not kidding. There's a family, and I was like, come on, man. How many more of this shit do we have to see that you all aren't understanding that this is a fucking joke? And
Yeah.
it's not that is not right. No way does the
Yeah.
wife turn into the husband. The, the husband turns into the wife, and then all the
Yeah.
kids are non-binary and trans. I'm like that's like
Right,
a
right.
Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just like points to this confusion that we have collectively right now. Like, nobody knows who they're supposed to be. Like, it's like
Yeah.
we're having a collective identity crisis.
Yes.
And I think that I think there's real value in like natural order of things, like natural like
Mm,
roles that people are supposed to play. And
I
again,
agree.
you can break the rules, you can bend, you can do
Yeah.
whatever you want to do, but just
Yeah.
having some structure in society is beneficial. Um, you know, I don't
Literally,
think.
it's been like that since the time of the beginning of time when cavemen, right?
Right.
Like, it's just that's what they're trying to do, I think, as well,
Mm,
right? They're trying to disrupt family. They're trying
mm,
to disrupt this idea that men and women, and that's how you make babies, and there's biology,
yeah.
right? And you're born a man, a male or female. They're trying to disrupt that to create this transhumanism
Mhm.
scary crap, and it's
Yeah.
oh wow, it
Yeah.
actually is it's like a really sci-fi movie.
It is. So, I mean, what do you think? Well, I guess one, what do you think is going to happen in the next few years? And also,
Mm,
how do we create
mm.
change? What do you think?
Well, number one, right here, we're doing that
Absolutely.
100% because
Yes.
people love. I'm so blessed for my channel, and I have so many amazing people who watch my channel and really care about you. They do. You watch. People are going to leave the most amazing
Mm,
comments and care about you. And so, first off, me and you are participating in change by being honest and real and having true actual conversation. Number two is that we have to put an end to transition. And I always said I would take the hit if I
Mm,
couldn't do it for a while. I would take the hit because it's worth it for
mm,
me to not have the younger generation. I've experienced such a great life, and if I can't get my hormones for a couple of years, I'll deal with it. Trust me, I'll deal with it. But that it's not
mm,
the worst case scenario. But I think we have to put some kind of hardcore stamp, just like I don't know, we can shut it down completely, but we need to really go back to
mm,
this is a mental disorder and you don't just get to be trans. And it's not,
mm,
it became an identity. Trans became an identity. I don't identify as trans, I identify as a man, right? So you see
mhm,
there's a huge
uh-huh,
difference there. The younger
mhm,
generation identifies into their it's a mental disorder. It's not normal for a girl to want to be a boy or a boy to want to be that's not
mhm,
normal behavior. So I think we have to unnormalize it, get it back into a
mhm,
mental health care space, and I think we also need to continue to have detransitioners be platformed in a space like what you're doing. What do you
mhm.
think? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the conversation piece. What we're doing right here is super
Yeah.
valuable, just bringing to light certain topics, speaking truth. And I think when everybody speaks their individual truth, we all come together to a deeper understanding of the truth, a collective
Yeah.
truth. Right
Yeah.
now, it's like we've got all these different voices everywhere saying, "This is my truth. This is my truth. This is my truth." And it's like, okay, well, what is the truth?
Right.
And I mean, you could say the truth is love. The truth is that
Mhm.
we're already loved the way that we are, and there's
Yep.
no need to do anything. You can just be the way that you are, and we can all love each other, and we can all get along. It's
Mhm.
possible. I really
Yep.
believe it, which is why I called my podcast The Bridge, because it's to
Right.
bridge these gaps in misunderstanding.
Right.
I also think that deeper healing should be made available for trauma, more
Right.
awareness around trauma healing. And so
Mhm.
that's another aspect of what I want to do and talk about.
Mhm.
I do trauma coaching. I kind of just started doing it for people, but I'm realizing that a lot of people don't even know what that entails or what that
Mhm.
looks like. I've had some parents reach out to me to try and help their trans kids, but the parents
Mhm.
actually were the ones that were not really open to receiving the feedback. Interestingly, for example, I had this one mom reach out to me to help her 17-year-old daughter who wants to be a trans man.
Mhm.
I talked to the daughter on the phone, and it was actually a really good phone call. And
Right.
I think
Right.
that I helped her to understand that there are different ways to be in life, that you can be
Mhm.
happy. And then I talked to the mom, and I was like, well, your daughter's an alcoholic. You can't address the trans issue until you address the alcoholism. And the
Right.
mom did not want to hear that.
Of
Uh,
course not.
I think that another aspect of trauma is that we're all connected. So families
Mhm.
are connected. My issues
Right.
that I had were directly connected to my mother and her
Mhm.
family, and it's like we're
Mhm.
all we're all connected. And I think
Right.
too that there's a lot of depression and mental health issues going on because of the state of the world.
Mhm.
Children are growing up in this modern day and age with their phones, and so they
Yep.
see everything that's going on. They don't feel hope. They see their parents who are like just working to make money and not really happy. Like,
Mm.
so young people are struggling right now. So I think another aspect too is reaching out to the young people and
Mm.
inspiring them, not just having conversations about the tough stuff. Like I do think detransition, some people perceive it to be a little bit hard to swallow
Mhm.
sometimes, but also talking about the good parts about life. Like life is amazing.
That's
You
right.
can be whoever you want to be. So I really do hope to inspire young people with my message.
Wow. You make such great points. You're right. I always say like that's why the kids come over to our house and we have play dates and we have like 10 kids here playing Dungeon and Dragons or whatever that thing is, and like not they're not on the game, right? We have limits on
Good.
all that stuff. You got to be outside running or playing or taking to the beach, or this is so important for I don't think enough parents maybe they can't participate. Maybe parents are, you're right, struggling to make money and having to work constantly. But I think if parents are listening, you've got to take the time off, even if it's 20 minutes, just to go
Yeah.
for a walk around the block and get the kid out. Because I think you make such great points of the fact that these kids are just in this weird headspace now, right?
Yeah.
TikTok, all of it. It's mind blowing what goes on. And so, of course, you just said something right now that was so profound. And I'm going to tell you again, that kid wanted to be a trans man. You see that? They want to be who wants to be trans? This isn't something I would ever want somebody to take on. You don't
Mm.
want to be trans. You are, right? You are trans, and you can sort of try to navigate the world through that. But I think these kids want to be trans. I think it's going to go away. I do.
I agree with you, actually. I
I
think in
do.
the next few years, we're going to see, I mean,
Yes.
already it's happening. Lots of detransitioners are coming out, sharing their stories.
Yes.
It's going to totally drop in numbers.
Yes.
And then we're going to have, I mean, there's going to be some people who still are going to try to push ahead with it, you know, with the movement.
Of
But
course. Of
I
course.
really think it's going to lose steam because it's already, I think it's
It already
already,
is.
yeah.
It already is. But the one question I want to go before ask you before we go here is there are people who transition and say they're trans men, and then they decide they're no longer trans men, but they don't do what you did. They don't do hormones, they don't do surgery, but
Mm,
they identify as trans, and then they don't identify as trans anymore. Maybe they start going backwards to non-binary, to back to a female, right?
mhm.
My question to you is, do you consider those people detransitioners as well?
So just people who simply change their identity, like,
Socially, I guess on some level, socially transitioned without any medical intervention.
hmm,
But mentally mentally they were living as a trans man and they wanted to get top surgery or they wanted to take hormones, but they never got to that sort of
hmm,
point of getting there. I wondered if you think of them. For me, I do. I actually do
hmm.
think of them as detrans. I think what we need to understand is we need to put you in one category of detrans and them in
Yeah,
another, because I do think mentally, on some level, they might be dealing with something
for sure. Yeah,
from that.
I think if they want to consider themselves detransitioners, then sure. I do agree with you that it's a very different experience because
Yes.
for me, like I lived my life as a man
Yeah.
for 5 years, so it's
Yeah.
very different, and I have to deal as well with the physical effects of everything. And
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
So that's why I think it needs to be separated.
yeah,
Do you know Prisha, the detransitioner Prisha? She's pretty out there and loud. I interviewed her many, many years ago, and then she became a
mhm,
really great advocate for it. But she feels like they should be called something else. Maybe they should be called something else. You know, maybe they shouldn't be called detrans. Maybe they should, I don't know, social trans. I don't really know, but I do think some of those kids are struggling with some mental damage from that
yeah.
situation.
I would imagine so too. If they really felt that they were
Yeah,
trans or really felt that they were men or whatever, then
yeah,
it's still a mental thing. You know, just like how getting into any kind of cult can mess with your brain. You
that's
know,
right,
there's still
right,
effects from that, whether you
right.
even if you didn't go as far as other people, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, medicalization is a whole other level, and a lot.
Mhm.
That's where we need to stop it before these kids get to the next level of medicalization. We need to make sure that a lot of these kids aren't getting the mastectomies and aren't getting the hormones so easy, because I think they might be able to come out of it a little better than if they do what you did. And
Mm.
that is really the goal, really, for me, is to just nope,
Yeah,
no more medicalization of these young, even though 19 you are 19, you're considered an adult. I still have an issue with that. I don't think a
yeah,
19-year-old should have access to removing their breasts because they're
right.
an adult, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely with you on that. I think, again, inspiring young people to just live their lives, find joy and excitement
Right,
in the things that are natural and available to them without
right,
taking things to the extreme, you know?
right.
Um, and I think honestly, because sometimes trying to tell a young person don't do this doesn't work because they want to then do it more. Instead, we should again inspire them, you know, bring
Yeah,
new ideas to the table of like
yeah,
how you can be a confident woman, you know,
that's right.
classes, lessons, like
So
podcasts, you
many.
know, there's so many ways that we can reach young people with a positive message that I
That's right.
you know, this is getting me inspired too to think about ways that I can share that message. So
Excellent. And that's why I just feel connected to you, and whatever I can do
mhm,
to help put your voice out there. Young kids need you. They don't
mhm.
need me so much, they need you. I need to do my work over here, but they need to see you,
Aw,
and see that you are saying, "Hey, wait a minute, I did this. It wasn't so great. how you don't have to do this to be a okay person, okay? And if you change your mind when you're older, you go right ahead. But right now, you gotta figure out how to live your life because you're not in the wrong body. That whole "I'm in a wrong body" thing is so insane. Like
Yeah,
they're manipulating kids to feel so bad about themselves. It's,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
because once you take your breasts off, what's next? Next, you don't like your nose, then you don't like this, then you don't like that, right? So it's just, oh
Yeah.
god,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, teaching self-love, so important, so that's what I'm doing.
great, great.
Yeah, for those listening, please join me on the bridge. It's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Obviously, I'll send Buck all my links and everything.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
yeah, and I am available. You can reach out to me if you're looking for support.
Excellent.
So yeah.
Excellent. I'll put all your links and everything there, and I'm sure people will gonna want to reach out to you, and so you'll be. Please support her channel. Please support her podcast. Please support everything she's doing. I'll put everything so you guys can get in touch with her. Let's raise your voice into a even bigger platform so we can start to heal these young people. It's just mind blowing. I'm actually blown away that we're in this space. Can
Hmm.
you imagine how I never thought in a million years that this would become the trans space ever. And not
Yeah.
even in my nightmares did I
Um,
ever even think this would be. I'd be having conversations with young women who did the most insane thing ever.
yeah.
So
I mean, I never thought I would be here either. So, I
I
mean,
know it's
the
fucking
whole
crazy.
entire beginning of my adulthood, I thought I was a man. So
Wow.
it's been a crazy adjustment to just living as myself again, like
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
back to being Maddie. Like it took me a minute to even reclaim my name because it had so much, grief associated with it. But again, like I had to
Right.
choose myself. And
Right.
yeah, I think that's the message I want to leave on. Like choose yourself, you got to live your life
Right.
for you ultimately.
Right.
And embrace the journey of self-love wherever it leads you.
Wow,
So
and you came out of it so powerful. You really did. So
thank
you're
you.
just on. You're in the beginning of your next journey in life. So
Yeah.
thank you guys. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks so much for subscribing. Really helping this channel grow. I appreciate. Leave her beautiful, awesome comments, please. And with that, I'll probably have you back on. I'm sure because I bet everyone's going to say bring you back
Oh,
on, so we can just have a spiritual conversation.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you should come on my show too if you
Oh,
want.
totally. That would be
Okay,
awesome.
cool.
Let's make it happen. So,
Okay.
okay, everybody, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Thanks again for joining and have an awesome, beautiful day.
Thank
So.
you.